So if you got the workbook from last week, we're roughly on page 18. And we asked about the distinction between advocates and raving fans. So just to do a quick recap on what we talked about last week, I'll just jump back to our ladder of loyalty. We were talking about this whole notion of how do I get my clients to turn into raving fans? And last week we talked about going from suspect to prospect. Prospect is shopper, which means they spend with you for the first time, then into a customer, which means they come back twice. And then how do we make them feel like they belong? So they keep coming back. And once they keep coming back, how do we get those people to then start talking about your business to other people and making sure they become part of your marketing strategy moving forward? And then we talked about all the ideas about how you shift people from suspect to prospect, et cetera, et cetera. We touched on the emotional bank account. Today we're here where we talk about the distinction between someone who thinks you're awesome at what you do and someone who doesn't shut up about you and tells everybody about your awesome business, which is quite a distinct difference, okay? Because I'm just curious about those people who have had, who gets lots of referrals in their business? Can I just get a show of hands for those people who get a lot of referrals? Yeah, there's not many, there's a few, okay. Here's the thing I found, right? There's two ways to get referrals. One is to ask for them, which is quite mechanical and awkward for some people. And the other way is to build a business that revolves around this whole notion of making it referable. Last time we spoke about this, I mentioned a guy by the name of Paddy Lund, who runs a dental practice up in Brisbane. And he closed the doors on his business and made it referral only. And the way he did that was that he thought about how his clients came through the door, and he said, anyone who comes in my door who doesn't know who I am and what I do and how much I charge is going to be a pain in the neck, because I charge a lot and I don't need to justify my charges. I want my clients to do it for me. So he deliberately decided to go down this path of being a referral-based business, referral-only business. And one of the ways he did it was that every client that came on board, he made them commit to referring to people of similar stature to themselves as part of their agreement to work with him. Now, if you think about what that does, right? If I said to you, part of becoming a client of ours in our coaching program is that you refer two people of similar stature to yourself. Now, those two words, or three words, similar stature to yourself, 4 words, are the delineator that makes you filter who you recommend to me. Because what it means is if you have a brother-in-law that's a dodgy business person who doesn't pay his bills, and you referred him to me after I asked you for clients of similar stature to yourself, that would then taint your name, okay? So when he does this, he's quite smart because it forces people to filter and say, I can't refer someone to him unless they're as good as me as a person or better. Now, there's a couple of things that we need to do within our business to make that happen. And we're going to touch on those today. So there's probably 2 or 3 key elements that I want to go through today. And I'm going to get you to workshop and brainstorm in your own organization. So let's go with this. Let me see if I can make my screen work. It's a bit harder when I'm remote. Back to the iPad. Awesome. So the first part of this is going to be 3 things we're going to talk about. The first one is consistency. Now, the reason I want to talk a bit about consistency is one of those Jedi mind tricks that makes people think you're awesome. And the example I often use is when we talk about McDonald's, you know, as a restaurant. Most people will rate customer service at McDonald's relatively high, unless they have had this conversation before. But the reality of customer service at McDonald's is it's non-existent. They've just trained us so well that we walk into this restaurant, we line up, we pay for our food in advance, we carry our own food to our table, and we clean up after ourselves, and we still rate the service as high. And the reason we do that is because it's exactly the same everywhere you go. Okay, so we need to work out how to put consistency into your business. The other thing we need to do is make it easy to buy. And this does my head in is the amount of people who actually make it difficult for people to transact with them. And what I mean by that is you do a proposal or a quote, and then they have to say yes to the quote, and then you send an invoice, and then they have to work out how to pay the invoice, and back and forth we go. And we chase people to get payment on something that they already said yes to. And to me, that's not easy to buy. Okay, easy to buy means simple things like making sure that every document that you use has a buy now button or link on it. You accept American Express credit card. You take basically you can take Bitcoin if you choose to, right? But make it easy. So if someone's interested in doing a transaction with you, they don't have to do anything hard. They can do it on their mobile phone. It looks okay. It looks secure. They can get on there and they can pay for things straight away. And the last part is the wow factor. Now, when we talk about wow factor, what I want to refer to there is what impresses people about how you deliver your product or service. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be something unexpected. So we just need to brainstorm 3 things right now. So the first one is, what can you do? And this is in your notes on page 20, or you can just write your ideas down. What can you do now to make your service more consistent? What can you do to make sure that the client experience that they have with you, and this is on the front end, right? On their inquiry with you, on the quoting that you do, on any conversation that you have at that front end where they're assessing your business. Because one thing that people do is when they see your business for the first time, they make judgment calls about everything, okay? And I'll rattle off some books that you probably should read on this, but there's a guy by the name of Harry Beckwith. He wrote a book called Selling the Invisible. And in that book, he stipulates that until I buy your product or service, I have no real idea of the value of the quality. Okay, no idea. And I don't even know if I like you or trust you. So I'm looking at everything around you to determine whether I think your business is bona fide, whether your product is bona fide, and whether I can give you some access to my money. So selling the invisible is about, how do I sell goodwill? How do I sell trust? And a lot of it has to do with the appearance of your salespeople, the appearance of your vehicles, the appearance of your website, the appearance of your quote, your approach during your initial few conversations. So I just want you to spend a minute now, and I don't know how to do the timer on here, but I'm going to give you about 1 minute just to write down 3 or 4 things you can do to make your service delivery, including your quoting and your initial consultations, whatever it might be, more consistent. Just going to give you a minute to do that. What can you do to make your service delivery, especially in the first instance, more consistent? 1 minute on that. I'll give you some ideas. Make my pen work. I would use something like a script to make sure that you cover how you have conversations. 2, would be to make sure you map out your client engagement process. Let's hear from you guys. What have you got on your list? What are things you can do to make your service delivery, including your pre-sales, more consistent? Who's going to go first? Anybody? I want 1 or 2 volunteers, maybe 3. Go, Avril, unmute yourself.
Okay, so in my mind, everything's about the website.
Yes.
So it's all about make it easy for them to contact us for a quote inquiry through the website. Mm-hmm. Then comes to me and I send them an email, usually.
Yep.
Fairly quickly, and set them up in the app and then tell them someone's going to call them. Either Heath or Rachel, so they need to call them fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. And my email's a templated email anyway. There's a couple of different options. Right. Everything in me, I've got about 30 signatures. You know, I just choose one.
Yeah, brilliant.
Then we need to go out for the quote appointment. We do very detailed quotes. So then it comes back through the app, we type it up, send it out, and it's all detailed.
Yeah, like, fantastic.
Most things are there. And then we do follow-ups. Okay. Probably about a week later or 10 days later, and then maybe a month later if they don't respond.
Great.
And that's all templated signatures.
That's what you currently do.
It's going to come out of my app ultimately, so we don't even have to do that.
Yeah. So that's the current process for you, right?
Yeah.
How can we improve it? How can we make it even more consistent?
Well, I could improve it by saying if you're a shithead, don't come here, but I don't quite know how to do that.
Yeah, you could. If you didn't use that languaging, you'd possibly get away with it.
Yeah, I could, maybe. So, yeah, I don't quite know. It seems to be a system that's working pretty well. Awesome. That's all I can say at the moment.
What I've learned is this, right? Every year that you're in the business that you're in, you're learning more. So every year, if you look at, they call it Kaizen over in Japan, is incremental improvement. The question I always ask is, how can we do it better? How can we do it better? And it's not assuming you're not doing a good job, because if it's working, you know, there's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But for me, that's not incremental improvement, that's status quo. So I listened to what you just said and it sounds awesome, okay? But for me, one thing I like is to make sure everything's mobile friendly. Like if anything, if I was going to build a website today, I'd build it for a mobile and not worry about the desktop. The second thing is if I make an inquiry online, my expectation these days is much higher than it used to be. I expect a response of some kind immediately, not in 5 minutes, not in 3 minutes, not in 2 minutes, pretty much immediately. And that sort of stuff is impressive, but if it's consistent, if you respond, we used to do this, have an autoresponder on emails that say, thanks for your email, I've received, it's in my inbox. I'll attend to it as soon as possible. And people would then, so it just took one level of unknown away. Did you receive my email? So just little things like that that you can add. Awesome. Who else would like to share a couple of ideas on what they can do to make their delivery more consistent? Just an aside, Avril, in delivery of your service as well, if you're doing a job, photos are cheap these days. And I know some trades are doing this really well, where they send photos of updates of what did we work on today. At the end of every day, they take photos of what they've done and they go, here's some photos of what we've done. Now, it doesn't take much effort, but it certainly makes people feel connected with the tradie, because in the old days, that was hard to do. These days, it's easy to do. So I think if you're going to do stuff like that, though, be mindful of consistency and make sure it's delivered as part of a workflow so that every tradie does the same sort of thing. So that's another thing we can do in there. So I just want one more idea on consistency. What could someone add to their workflow to make their delivery more consistent? Craig, I'm going to ask you, you're looking at the screen.
I was on mute, Doug.
Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately, I had the first 2 points that you had.
Yeah.
And the next step that I need to finalise is automation. So it's building up the number of touch points, like what you were saying with Avril and the photos. It's a separate thing from our end. It's making sure that we build up the trust.
So the thing we're trying to do here is it's not just about prospects. Now let's talk about clients, because when we talk about raving fans, we want people who talk about you regardless of whether someone asks. An advocate is a person that recommends you. If I say, Craig, do you know anyone who does SEO? And you go, oh yeah, Craig's a good guy. But if we communicate often, and if Avril was doing every job and every day there was an end of day photo shoot done, and I'm just saying what if, and that was sent to the client, and that client was out for dinner that night, and they're out with friends. Oh, what's been going on? Oh, we've been painting the house. How's it going? Oh, let me show you the photos. And all the photos that she shows me are the photos from that day. And then I show the day before and the day before and the day before. So all of a sudden, you become the talking point of a conversation at dinner, not because you did an awesome job of painting, but because I've got a phone full of photos of the progress of my job. Does that make sense? So I think sometimes we forget about, well, once a client's on board, because we still talked about scripts and mapping out sales delivery process, but I think communicating often during the relationship is important. And especially for those of you who are service providers, because that's the most invisible thing ever, is things like SEO and cleaning and any other service delivery that is sort of done in the background. So how do you make sure your client sees that you're doing your job? And you can do monthly reports, which is okay. But if you did either daily or weekly reports or updates that gave people a snapshot of how things are tracking, that level of transparency would mean that you're always in their inbox. And as long as it's good news and not just marketing hype, as long as it's valuable information that shows them how you're tracking, you now have a level of communication that they can share with people. I'm going to share a few stories of Paddy Lund, who's very clever at doing this. He read a book many years ago called The Psychology of Influence by Robert Cialdini. I don't know if anyone here has read that book. If you have, just raise your hand. If you haven't, you need to get a hold of it. It's an awesome book. It was written in the 60s or 70s, so it's old. But they did a lot of science tests around what makes humans behave the way they do. And one of the things in Robert Cialdini's book is he has 7 or 9 laws. I can't remember the exact number. And one of them is the law of reciprocity, which means if you give people things, they're obligated to return. Another one is the law of consistency, is when you ask someone to do one thing and then you ask a second and a third thing, they're obligated to continue down the path. And the whole Nigerian scam was based around this idea of consistency. And anyone who's received an email from Nigeria saying your uncle has passed away and there's $4 million in a bank account. But we don't want you to send money. Just give us a bank account number and we'll put the money in there for you. And you look at it. And some people say, this is a scam. Other people go, I've got nothing to lose here. But the whole idea is once you send an email back, the game has started. And it never ends until they empty your bank account, but you feel like there's a promise at the end. They use the law of consistency there. When they say, we just want you to communicate with us, that's all, there's no threat. And then the second, third, fourth level of communication starts to build trust. So the question is, how do you communicate often with your clients? Not scam them, but how do you keep in touch and how do you show them a sort of progress report on what you've delivered to them, how you've delivered it to them so they can share it with other people? Is this making sense for everybody?
Yep.
Thumbs up if you're with me. Awesome. Cool. That was a hand up, Craig, but I'll take it as a thumbs up. So think about how do you communicate more often during the life cycle, not just the sales process. This is the engagement process. And then even after the engagement process, you've got to think about, well, how do I keep in touch and how do I become valuable in terms of my connection with that person? Let's move on to the next one, which is easy to buy. Now, I get some people go feral on me when I talk about accepting Amex and credit cards and all these sorts of things. But I will suggest to you this, right? People will go with your competitor because they accept Amex. And as funny as it sounds, people will do strange things for points. The ironic part about accepting any credit cards or making it easy to buy by having buy now links, making it easy to buy by making sure every quote that you have has a way to book a time with you, making it easy to buy by using things like we use appointment call, but there's a thing called Calendly, which is every email that we send has a link at the bottom saying, if you want to talk to me, book a time. Because I don't want people doing this email back and forth trying to find a time to communicate. If they want to talk, just book a time and I'll be there. Okay. We do this with all our coaches and it just makes it easy. Okay. Because we live in a world of noise. So I want you to write down 2 or 3 things that you could add to your current process that you think would improve the buying experience to make it easier to buy for your clients. Okay. I just either if you're doing things that are already working or things that you think you should add. I just want you to add them down into the list. I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to do that. What makes it easy to buy? Easier to buy. And while you're thinking about that, I'll talk about a few ideas with you. No, I won't. I'm going to give you another 15 seconds just to jot down another couple of points. What can make it easier to buy from you? I'll give you a couple of innovations that we've put in. So the first thing we realized, yes, you can have everything on your website, but people can't navigate a website easily. They just want to know, where can I get the information? So we've started using Google Docs, just a Word document that we share with people that has our information about our programs. And at the bottom, there's a hyperlink to a shopping cart so they can buy. That wasn't easy enough. Some people won't read the document. So we started using a thing called Loom, L-O-O-M, which is a video service online where you can record your screen and you on video explaining a document. So we do Loom videos explaining our program, which is me running through the document that we've sent them as well. So if they can't be bothered reading it, because they might be driving the car, or if they just want to hear someone describe the program, it's just me reading the document literally. That's less than 3 or 4 minutes, but we've been using this super successfully in terms of what we call sell by chat. So using chat boxes to sell. People's expectation these days is that you are really easy to communicate with, you are easy to get information from, and you are easy to engage in your business. So 1 or 2 things there straight away. Easy to buy is making sure they have the right information in front of them at the right time. They have buy now links. You accept all credit cards. The other thing that I'll suggest that makes it easy to buy for people is to have something that we call a life raft product. Now, I'll just explain what this is very quickly. A life raft product is a bit like this. We think about our clients and the engagement model, and we say at the start, they're very suspicious, they're very suspect, they're not sure if they want to use us. And so we need to have something that has a promise and that has risk reversal. I don't want people to sign up and become a coaching client for a year with me. If anything, we've gone the other way. We don't do any contracts anymore in our coaching programs. You pay by the month. That is what's known as risk reversal. That makes it easy to buy. In your business, you will have to think about something that we call a life raft. Now, a life raft to me is something that fits into a very short period of time and gives people the option to try before they buy. Now, it could be a starter pack. It could be a discount on first order. It could be a solution to a problem that they're facing right now, but it's in a sort of, it's in a encapsulated sort of deliverable, which makes it easy to use. So if it's painting, it might be just a painting of one room or a refresher. It might be something that you can fix price to. I think everyone on this call will have different ways that they can deliver this life raft product. But if you think about what a life raft is a thing that saves someone's lives. So for me, the way we created our life raft product is we asked a question: what is the biggest problem that if we solve this problem, we would prove ourselves to our client? Okay, what is the biggest problem that if we solve it, we can prove ourselves to our client? And we've had a few iterations of this, and some of you guys have either heard of this or engaged with this product. I know Karen's on board with us with a product called the Results Coaching Program. We encapsulated a program that runs over 2 months, and we guaranteed a result within that 2-month period. Now, the intention of that program is two things, right? Number one is to produce a result, but number two is to allow people to do a try before they buy, okay? Because then we can talk about the other programs that we have during that time, and we can give people access to that. So what can you do in your business right now to give people a very tangible one cost item to get them started? Okay, that's one way to make it easy to buy, just another way. If anyone got any other ideas or would like to share what they've got on there, how to make it easier to buy from us list. I'm going to pick people at random. I'm going to pick on you, Stephen Peach, because you're listening with intent.
I'm going to delegate to Peter because I think Peter should answer this.
Kenny.
Pete,
Right, Pete.
what do you reckon? What do you reckon, Pete?
How can you make it easier to buy?
Mute.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
We got everything there, and I'm not sure what we can add more.
So what do we do, Pete? Tell them what we do.
I do with everything. We give them some stickers and some stuff and some brochure and some stuff like that. So.
Who do you sell to, Peter? Are you in the parts section?
Parts department, yeah, parts, yeah.
Okay. So for everyone else on the call, what Peter and Stephen sell is parts, what we call wear parts. So if you've got a digger,
yeah,
and those teeth on the end that wear out, they sell those things, right?
Yeah.
So they sell them through, I think you sell them through a lot through resellers, right?
Yes, a lot of resellers, yes.
Yes. So my question is, how do we make it easy to buy for a reseller? My suggestion would be something like providing a stand that they can display your products on. Something like providing a starter pack. You know, just as an example, Ryobi sells crappy power tools through Bunnings that no one buys unless you're not a tradie. If you're a handyman, they're awesome because they're super cheap and they're very effective. But they encourage people to start by buying just the drill. And it comes with a battery. And when you buy the drill with a battery, guess what? That battery fits all of their other power tools. So they make sure that there's an entry point product that's very affordable and provides a service. And so you buy that, and they know that over time, as you build your collection, you're going to keep buying the same product range. Okay. The whole range, there's probably about 20 or 30 different tools, but they get you in with just either a handful, like 1 or 2 or 3, for a special price. And then once you've got those, they know that you'll continue because the batteries all fit each other. All right. So what I'd like you to consider, Alex has got a hand up.
David, I have a question.
Yes.
I do have an entry package, which is the 5 sessions.
Yes.
What I found, and 5 sessions will give you result, 100%.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't be a long-lasting result. So you have to continue to get a long-lasting result.
Of course.
What I found that after 5 sessions, a lot of people would actually have long-lasting result. So they basically say, I follow up and say, oh, I'm still okay. I'm good. Thank you very much. I'm very good. I don't need your service. I'm in. And so, it's become service rather than the life raft.
Yes. So what you need to do is consider your life raft product to be a smaller package than that. So it might be 2 sessions, okay, or it might be 1 session, and you might offer the first session at half price or something, right?
Well, I'm offering this the 20-minute session free of charge as a starter.
Yeah. So for me, I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Because free of charge means 0 value potentially for some people. So my preference is that you don't work on what you can afford to deliver, you work on what problem can you solve. Because if you can fix their problem in 5 sessions, then they don't need to come back to you. So that's not a life raft, that's a solution. Okay. A life raft is targeting people who are trying to evaluate your service before they continue into a full-time relationship with you. Now, to be fair, that person that you fix their problem in 5 sessions will probably come back to you in the future if they have another problem.
Yes.
Right. So technically they should be a lifelong client of yours. It's just, there's no point coming back to you if they don't have a problem, because the service you're offering is to solve their problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we work with people who are in the health industries, one of the things I've learned is there's an ethics component that comes in that says technically you should only service someone if they have a problem. So offering to do a adjustment every week for somebody who doesn't want an adjustment every week because you tell them they do is unethical. So it's difficult to sell more of that service unless someone says, I want to see you, Alex, every week because I feel better as a result of it. It's a lifestyle choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that might be your life raft product, but what's missing is you don't have an ongoing service product that they can use, which is a maintenance style product. Okay, because those 5 sessions solve the problem. But if the problem's solved, they're not going to come back again unless they have another problem. So what's the secondary product that you can sell them? So it could be a session once a month for adjustment. It could be a massage. I don't know. But you have to think about what is the longevity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Let's keep moving. I'm conscious of time. The last one I wanted to put up here is what's called the wow factor. Now, the wow factor is the thing in Spanish. The wow factor is also known as lanyap. Weird word, lanyap. Lanyap in Spanish literally means giving someone something unexpected. And the way that giving someone something unexpected works is it's not part of your contract with them. It's not something that's standard. It's the extra, okay? So in Paddy Lund's world of dentistry, he calls this the critical non-essential. And he says, you know, when you come to my dental practice, it's essential that I solve your problem. So if you've got pain in your tooth, I need to eradicate the pain. If you've got a tooth that needs removing or replacing, I do that. But the wow factor is the thing that I do that you don't expect. So in his practice, one of the things they do is they have a coffee machine and they make you coffee when you walk in the front door, unexpected in a dental practice. And it's not your standard Nespresso machine, it's a full-on barista machine. Second thing they do that's unexpected and probably generates the most work for them of all things is they bake what they call dental buns. Everyone who goes to a dental, if they go in to see the dentist with Paddy Lund, they leave with a basket full of freshly baked buns, sugar-free. And those dental buns that they take home, they can't eat for the next 2 hours because their mouth is all numb. So they take them to the office and they put them on the coffee table and people go, what's this? And they go, oh, some buns that my dentist baked for me. What do you mean, your dentist? Oh, every time I go, he bakes me a basket full of buns. He does. Who's your dentist? Now, the whole conversation is around the buns, not about the quality of the dentistry. Because sometimes we think that people refer us because we do a good job. People don't refer us just because we do a good job. They refer us because there's something interesting about the experience they had with us. So in his world, he's got a few different strategies. And there's another clever one. And I was talking about that book called The Psychology of Influence, because one of the things Paddy Lund does is, which is very interesting, is in his ladies' toilets, in his dental surgery, he's got 3 bottles of the best perfume money can buy. So Chanel No. 5 and a couple of others. And he's got a little sign under there saying, please use with my compliments, the happiness-centered dentist. And he says, this is what happens, right? People come into my dentistry, they go to the bathroom, they see Chanel No. 5, they love Chanel No. 5, but they can't afford Chanel No. 5, so they spray a couple of puffs on. They finish their session with me. They go out for coffee with their friends, and their friends go, "Oh, is that a new perfume?" And they go, "Yeah, it's Chanel No. 5. Oh, very classy. Oh, not mine. My dentist has it in his bathroom." So once again, the wow factor there has nothing to do with the service. All right. So I want you to think about something that you can provide. Doesn't have to be expensive, because it sounds expensive to have Chanel No. 5 in your bathroom. But if you think about the return on investment that this guy gets out of these things, it's massive. What can you add to your service that is a wow factor? What can you provide either after the service or during the service that is memorable and outside of the service provision? Because providing like an extra hour of service doesn't really cut it as a wow factor. But providing like a basket of gifts, or providing a couple of tickets to gold class, that's moving down the right track. Now, this is super, super difficult, by the way. I don't expect you to answer this question today, this wow factor question. You need to ponder it, because if it's too expensive, you won't do it. If it's too out there, you won't do it. But the wow factor is things that impress people. And I'll share a story that Paddy Lunn shared when I saw him at a conference one time. He said the story was about a plumber. And this plumber was out for dinner with his wife. They were at a wedding. And it was not a wedding, it was a formal dinner, and they all had their sort of black tie stuff on. And while they were sitting there, he got a message from an old lady who was a client of his, and he said to his wife, "Look, she's only around the corner and her taps are leaking. I'm just going to pop out and fix that problem for her, and I'll be back in half an hour." And so out he goes, fixes this leaky tap, comes back to the wedding, to the event. And the next day he gets a call from a random person. He goes, "Got this booking from another old lady, don't know who this is." And he shows up to this lady's house to sort of deal with his plumbing problem. And the lady looks at him very disappointed. And he said, you look disappointed. And she goes, yeah, I thought you were the plumber that comes out in a dinner suit. Now, it's a story, right? But the idea of that is that if this guy was smart, he would go out to the local op shop and he'd buy a handful of dinner suits, and he'd say to all of his plumbers, from now on, you go out wearing these things, because he would never have to market again. Okay. Now, that would take a bit of guts and get up and go. And this is why I'm saying the wow factor is a difficult thing to consider. But if you put some creative thought into it and you come up with ways to impress people with what you do, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be out of the norm, not the thing they would normally expect. See, to me, when I go to a hotel room and I see 2 chocolates on the pillows, that used to be impressive in the first couple of years, but now it's sort of almost expected. All right. So this is about creativity when we do this wow factor. And it's about thinking, how can I impress someone, not by throwing money at the problem, but how can I do something that's unexpected? Okay. And if I can do something unexpected as part of my service delivery, I will get word of mouth happening, not because I do a good job, but because people were sort of thrown, or they received some sort of unexpected delivery. Is this making sense for everybody? Okay, so I want you to think about this idea. I'm not going to ask you to come up with the ideas for wow factor unless something came to mind out of our conversation today. What can you do to impress people? Okay, and sometimes it's about under promising and over delivering. And what I mean by that is, if you say I can deliver in 3 days and you deliver in 2 days, people will be impressed. If you say I can deliver in 3 days and you deliver in 4 days, they're going to be unimpressed. So sometimes it's how you set the expectation up front. And the trick with this thing called the wow factor is it's stuff that has to be happening systematically, but without telling them that it's going to happen. Is everyone following me on this idea, the theory of the wow factor? Now, I just want to talk about a couple of interesting points, and I'm conscious of time. We've got about 10 minutes to go, which is perfect. Okay, so the first thing I want to touch on is if we flick onto the next page, you're going to see why people leave you. Okay, so statistically, people will leave your business for one of a number of reasons. The first one is they die, only 1%, which is pretty good. The second reason people will leave you, 3% of people leave because they move out of your area. So they're not in the locality of your business. 5% will buy from a friend. What we mean by that is someone in their network has gone into the industry that you're in, and as a result of that, they will move. 9% will leave you because they're sold by a competitor. And this works 2 ways. If you're trying to get new clients through marketing, 9% of people will leave their current supplier because of your ability to sell to them. 14% will leave you because the product or the price is not satisfactory to them anymore. But the 68% is the interesting one. 68% of your people will leave you because they feel you don't care. They feel that you take them for granted. And this is the biggest killer of retention of clients, okay? Even when Alex said, you know, if I fix their problem, they're not going to come back. That's that problem fixed, right? If your job is to fix problems, fix them, but make sure they know that you're available and that you fix those kinds of problems, and make sure that they can share that information with other people. But if people feel that you just don't care anymore, that you take them for granted, they will go, there's an old saying, a new broom sweeps clean, right? And if people say to you, look, I just want to change it up because I feel I need to have a new supplier, that means they're not feeling there's any dynamics in your business. Now, I just want to talk about this because this is really important. Who in this call will do extra to get a new client on board? Bend over backwards. I'll just get a show of hands. Those people who do extra to get a new client on board. All right, at least 2 or 3 people admit to this. Here's the risk of doing that. If you do extra to get a new client on board, by the very nature of that statement, you do less for an existing client to stay on board, which means that you are using this statistic. It's getting used against you. My suggestion is you don't do more to get a new client on board. You consistently provide service at all levels. And if you haven't got a mechanism to make sure that your current clients are being engaged fully, and all of you have experienced a call from Kelly or from Joe from our organization, and you'll get those for as long as you're a client of ours. Because one of the things we realized is we do not want people to leave because they feel that we don't care. And so for us, that's more important than bending over backwards for new clients, because there's 2 things that happen. One is retention and the other one is referrals. And if you don't have a strategy in your mind for how do I keep a client for life, right? If you don't have a strategy for how do I keep a client for life, then it's going to be super difficult for you to eliminate this perceived indifference problem. Okay. So you might have to change your product set or have an alternative product that you can provide or something, right? But if you don't have a retention strategy, that means my client can stay with me for a longer period of time because I have a product that suits that life cycle, then there's a problem. Now, I remember I had an argument with this around this with a guy who ran we talk about number of transactions and how people should have repeat business. And this guy pipes up during a presentation. He says, David, I sell tombstones. We don't get a lot of repeat business. And it was a joke, right? Because the reality is no dead people buy tombstones. It's only the family that buys a tombstone, which means he's got the ultimate repeat business because everybody's going to get one, right? You just have to have the relationship with the right people. And for him, it was all about making sure the family knew who he was. Because if they knew who he was, then when the time came, he would be the person that they would refer to. So I don't think there's any industries that can say we only have a one-off client. Okay. I think that we have to think about how do we provide, it might be an alternative service or a product, but if you don't have it, then you can't retain them. Right. And even in painting, you know, I'll give you another example. We were dealing with a cabinet maker one time that did kitchens, and we talked about lifetime value. And the cabinet maker said to me, well, most people don't buy a kitchen more than once every 7 to 10 years. Okay. And we said, well, how do we get the lifetime value up? And there was only one way, and that was to change the target market. So instead of approaching homeowners, we approached builders and architects. And we spent more money on marketing because we knew a builder and architect would use a kitchen every time they built a house. Now, yes, the margins were lower, but the volume outweighed the margin. And so the question I have is, if you wanted to get a client for life, who would it be and how would you possibly create a product that will allow that to happen? Because doing that then allows you to get retention. And if they refer someone of similar stature, you're going to get another stream of income. Is everyone following me on this? Cool. Next point I want to talk about, and this one is very practical, and you're going to do the homework on this right now. There's a thing called a moment of truth. Now, in your business, a moment of truth is going to be that moment where a client or prospect makes a decision as to the quality of your service. Now, there's a guy by the name of Jan Carlson. He used to run Scandinavian Air Services, SAS. And he had a big thing about the cleanliness of the plane when people walked on the airplane. And he said, if there is a coffee ring on the pull-down table in front of you when you're sitting on the plane, what is your thoughts about the quality of the servicing of the motors on the airplane? He said there's moments of truth where people make an evaluation about the quality of your product or service. Now, it's going to be one of 2 or 3 areas for everybody. And the first one is going to be the initial meeting with you. The second one might be when you present your proposal or quote. The third one would be the first day that the tradie rocks up to the site. The fourth one might be the end of every day, how clean the site is if you're in that space, et cetera, et cetera. I need you to list down your moments of truth in your business. When are the moments that you need to impress your client so their evaluation of you is strong? Okay, I'm just going to give you a minute or so to do this. This is really critical. What are the moments of truth in your business? What are the moments of truth? The moments where it really matters for you to set an impression or to impress your client. Sometimes it's when your bill shows up. Sometimes it's when you chase people for money. What are those moments of truth? Okay, let's get a few into the chat box. What are the moments of truth for you into the chat box? I just want to talk about a few of these because this is going to be the main piece of homework that comes out of today. What are the moments of truth in your business? Into the chat box. I want to see at least one, maybe 2 or 3. I'm seeing none. There we go. First contact call, definitely. Thanks, Stephen. Monthly report, 100%. Yep. There's going to be a few others. What is the moments of truth? Response time to a client when they contact us. Absolutely. First technical discussion, 100%. What about for you, Craig? Moments of truth in your business. Speed to response, tone of voice, ease of payment system. Yep, awesome. Clarity of written comms, 100%. Alex, initial appointment, follow up on appointments. Yes. Thanks for client inquiry to be resolved first time round. First time need to challenge the client. Yes. Awesome. Okay, let's talk about a few of these. So what I'm going to suggest with this one is, this is probably the most important part of today's presentation. Because for me, it's these moments of truth is where people are making evaluations about you, your company, your service, and how you offer it. Now, when you think about these moments of truth and you jot these down, you need to think about how does the client feel during that moment. And I'll give you a quick story about a company we dealt with. They were a photographic studio. They had 5 studios around Australia, and they were very sales oriented. They were really good at what they did. They would do family portraits. They'd take the photos and then they'd sell them during the presentation. And one studio was not performing, and they could not work it out. They said, we don't understand. Every other store's performing well. They got their numbers on the board. They're highly motivated. They're supercharged. This one in Sydney, just not working. And we went up there to have a look at it. And one of the things that happened is if I try and motivate people by sales numbers directly, it can actually become a demotivator, right? Because people get fearful of losing. They get a fear of loss. And so we started talking about moments of truth, and we said, what are the moments of truth when people evaluate your service? And they said, well, when they get met at the front door, literally the first meeting. And then they said, also, when we bring them into the presentation to show them the photos, they come in very anxious because they know this is a sales pitch and they know they're probably going to part with thousands of dollars at the end of this conversation. And so we said, how do we alleviate all these things? Now, one of the best ways to do this is to have a very structured approach to every step in your process and explain to people what's going to happen. And so we started talking about, I want you, instead of worrying about sales transactions, I want you to think about how excited the prospect or the client was at the end of that engagement. And that included just the confirmation call for coming for your appointment. And the whole idea was to keep the energy high. Now, imagine if we looked at all of these things: initial appointment, follow-up on appointments, and follow-up after each appointment for Alex. And we said, I want to make sure the energy level that my prospect or my client leaves that interaction with me with is high. And so we did this, and we made sure that the people who were making the phone calls or having the meetings had this scorecard in their head of, I want this person to be excited at the end of this engagement. And it only took a week to turn that whole store, that whole location around based on focusing on energy levels versus focusing on sales numbers. So when you identify what the moments of truth are within your business, you need to work out how to fix them. Now we all get our electricity bill, and some of you remember this, is it's a moment of truth when you open the bill, right? Because you would look at it and you say, how much did I spend this month or this quarter? And we all know electricity is going up. How did the electricity companies deal with this moment of truth? Is they put this beautiful little graph in the bottom of the bill that compares you to the majority of the population and tells you that you're actually in the higher percentile for being efficient with your energy. And there's a couple of other bits of information they give you to justify your bill. Now, they found that by doing that, people were more comfortable with receiving the bill and paying the bill because they didn't feel so bad about the amount of money. When you send me a bill from your organization, do I get in that moment, because that's a moment of truth, the bill, do I get surprised and delighted, or do I get anxious and disappointed? You know, and these are the sorts of moments of truth that you guys need to work on. And so when you identify when is it that your clients are making an assessment of your product or service, and even after you've finished, right? Because this is about referrals as well. How are you alleviating that moment of stress? Because if I get my bill from Craig and I go, oh God, that's more than I expected, I have now lost the referrals that client will give to me. When I get my bill from Craig and I go, oh yeah, that's what I expected, but here's a $200 voucher for dinner. Well, right? That's the moment of truth that I can actually turn into a referral point, okay? So what are the moments of truth for your business? How can you identify how we can make them sort of more impressive and wow factor? And like I hone in on this because for me as a business owner and you guys as business owners, you start to realize that if I can fix the way I deliver my current service to my current clients, two things happen, right? The first thing is that my clients become happier. And as a result of that, I become happier. And so now I can build my business by making a business that markets itself. So, you know, Sarah's on this call with us today and she's a marketer, but she's right into this customer experience stuff because she gets it. She says, most people will spend more money on generating leads, right? Cold leads, than they will on getting their current clients to refer. But you think about this, right? The old statistic was it's 6 times more to get a new client than it is to get an old client to come back. But we expect people to come back because we did a good job. We expect people to come back because we did a good job. The truth of the matter is it's not true. People come back because you are very effective at keeping the relationship alive, giving them things they don't expect, right, in their moments of truth, and making sure their experience with you is amazing. Now, if I was going to spend marketing dollars on getting new clients or making sure my current clients think I'm awesome, I will go with current clients think I'm awesome all day long, right? Because that's an investment that has a recurring return to it, okay? Paddy Lund deliberately delisted his phone number. He said, I don't want anyone ringing me who's not referred by one of my existing clients because I don't want to have to justify my price to them. I want my client to justify my price to them. So when they come to me, they come as a referral. It's a fascinating story because he did it to remove his stress. Right? He said, I don't want people coming in and going, oh, $60, that's a lot. So he charges $150 instead. And when people come to him, they come in preloaded. They know that he charges a premium because the person who referred them pays it. So how can I turn your business into a referral, predominantly referral driven business that is getting high ticket item and not random referrals? And the answer is to manufacture your client experience. Okay, to manufacture your client experience in a way that it has predictable results. So that's it for today, guys. I think that the most important part of this is for you to label these moments of truth, to identify what are they, and then you can start brainstorming how can we improve them. And the other key message out of today was to make sure you have a life raft product, which is a way that people can try evaluate you in a short period of time with low risk, so risk reversal. And then a long-term product, which is how do I keep people as a client for a longer period of time? So it might be a membership. You know, it's not easy to predict, like especially with people like Alex. If you provide a service that fixes a problem and you solve the problem, then you can't keep trying to sell that service to that person. They don't need it anymore. So what's the alternative? So what's the other lifestyle choice product that you can have as available that you can offer to people? Okay. Now, if you're someone like, you know, Costco do this really well. They just have a membership at $60 a year. They don't make money out of the $60, but they get loyalty out of it because people will do everything they can to get the most out of their $60 Costco card. The same with Amazon Prime. They do the same thing. eBay is trying it with eBay Plus. If you've got some sort of service that you can't predict what people are going to buy every day, maybe you provide some level of membership that gives them privileges. Making sense? Cool. Let's wrap up with some insights from today. What did you get out of today? What was the most exciting thing for you, or what was the aha moment? Into the chat box. What did you get out of today's session? What's been most useful? What's been most exciting for you? I'd like to hear from everyone, please. Into the chat box. What's been most useful? What's most exciting for you as a result of today? Have a long way to go. Awesome, Avril. At least we have a path, right? Changing my build template, 100%. Make it so easy. Not only put your account details on there, take credit card. Just build it into your fees. Working out the moments of truth, 100%. I mean, this is the secret to being successful in business, is fix this problem and get your clients to be talking about you, not because of your service, but because of their experience with you. Where clients make the decisions about product or service. Thanks, Joe. Articulate the lifestyle product, 100%. And working out how you can provide that service ongoing. Map out the process for repeatability. Yeah. Making sure that it's systemized too. Now, someone touched on quick responses before too. My thing with quick responses is try and be immediate on your response, because that's the expectation that people will be having, especially with websites. Even if it's a bot, it just lets them know that their response has been attended to. Wow factor, need to come up with ideas and create lifestyle product for life. Yes, Alex, you do. And it might not be your own product. It could be a product that you get through a sort of affiliation with someone else as well. But how can you do that? Awesome. Look, trying to keep these sharp and short so that you can get some takeaways out of today. If anyone's struggling with their moments of truth or with their LifeRaft product, please reach out to your coach and have a chat about it. Certainly worth investigating or investing the time in, because I think if you make these slight changes in your deliverables, you will find that not only will you get retention, but you also get referrals. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. This was being recorded. It's going to go up on the membership portal. So if you need access to any of this recording, if you need to hear some repeat on any of this stuff, just jump on there. If you need help, please reach out to your coach. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.